So welcome to Talk to Me Baby, communication styles that actually help. I'm Danielle, one of our co-hosts today. And before we dive into our content, I'm going to go through a few housekeeping items just so we all feel prepared and ready to learn in this space. So I know, again, we said a lot of you are on your lunch or joining us from your working space or taking a little bit of a break, and we encourage you to show up as you are. So if you feel comfortable, please come off camera so that we can connect with you directly and see your faces. This is a safe space. We just don't want to talk to a ton of black squares, but there are a bunch of them on camera, so thank you for that. And if you want to stay off, we completely understand too.
I don't know how to do it. I'm using my phone.
Okay. Yeah, so we're going to pop into the chat box there and we can guide you on where you can click to bring your camera on or off. Next up, who the heck is Shift Collab? If you're new to us here, welcome. Shift Collab is a mental health practice and we help Canadians build the lives they want, one session at a time. It's that simple. We're proudly female founded and we've built a clinical team of over 125 therapists over the last few years. And Minor being one of them who joined us almost a year ago today. I'm going to pass the mic to her in a little bit to introduce who she is a little bit more to you. But I'm Danielle, as I said, so I'm going to be one of the co-hosts today. And I'm also the therapist marketing lead here at Shift Collab, meaning I support our entire therapy team build and maintain their clinical practice through different marketing efforts. And then we have Lucy Ford here, who's in a beautiful pink sweater. Hey, Lucy. Lucy is our social media and community manager here at Shift Collab. So anything you see on our socials or if you see any cool external partnerships pop up, that is our girl Lucy. She is also here today just to help us with some back-end tech support. So if you have any questions like can't find your camera or microphone or whatever, please pop it into the chat box and she can further support you there.
I don't even know where that box is.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm on my desktop, so I'm not seeing what you might be able to see on a mobile view. But if you can see a little functionality at the bottom that says chat or anywhere that you can open a tab that says chat, that's where it would be there. And then we just politely to ask you mute your mics as well as we get into the presentation, just so we can all have clear ears on Manure. So going into more of our functionalities quickly, if you're new to sessions, this is the video platform that we are in. And if you see at the bottom left, you'll see a tab that says show agenda. And if you click on that, you'll be able to see our rundown of the content today and click that button again or that tab again if you also want to hide that agenda. To the bottom right, we have a few functionalities and tools that are the chat box, our polls, our Q&A, notes, and transcript. So we'll be doing some interactive, the chat box is there to converse throughout the content, make some comments, shout outs, whatever it may be. You can also place questions in there, but if you want to label it questions so that we clearly know that it's something we want to loop back to, that would be super helpful. And then we have our polls functionality. So throughout this session, we will be asking some questions that we can all vote on. You can also opt in to share them anonymously. So if you don't want your name attached to your answer, know that that's an option there for you to click through. These polls will pop up on the screen automatically, but if they happen to not do that, just click on that button below and it should pop up for you. And then we have our Q&A box. So this is where I would prefer us to put our questions throughout, if you have any, so that we can loop back to them at the end. We will create some space and time to loop back to the majority of these and have an open discussion together on any further questions that we might have that aren't in that box to begin with. We then have our notes tool. So this is for if you want to jot down anything of interest to you that resonates with you that you don't want to forget. You can add that there and then you can copy and paste or download it afterwards so that you can keep that information with you. We will also be sharing this recording after the event as well. So know that if you can only join for part of it or just want to loop back to the information that Manure is going to share with us, know that that's going to be available to you. We then have our transcript, which is automatically happening right now. But if you'd like it in a preferred language, all you need to do is click on that button, click your preferred language, and then that will pop up for you on that button as well. Okay, that was a lot. Before I pass the mic to our host of honor, does anyone have any questions about the setup? I also apologize if you can't see any of these settings. This is our also first time using this platform, so we will make sure that we troubleshoot as best as we can along the way so that going forward, we know how to better support you. Thumbs up if we're feeling good. Yes. Okay, amazing. Okay, Minor, take it away.
Thanks so much, Danielle. Hi, everyone. It's so great to see you all here. My name's Manur. I'm a registered psychotherapist qualifying, and I specialize in various challenges such as relationships and communication, anxiety and overthinking, self-esteem and self-compassion, and just managing life stresses and transitions. I'm a third culture kid, so I also understand the complexities of various cultures and backgrounds, and I take a culturally sensitive approach in my sessions as well. And in my practice, similar to this event, I provide a semi-structured like sessions where we'll build on your goals, learn psychological information, use resources and activities, and just chat about daily life and challenges. So yes, I'm a therapist, but I'm also a human first. So some fun facts about me are I love doing anything creative. As bad as it is, I can't enjoy food if it isn't spicy. I grew up living in Dubai most of my life, and I love change and just trying different things. I'm in Montreal today, so I'm really glad to connect to everyone joining from all across Canada and around the world as well. So thank you all for your time. And again, you want to add anything, add it to the chat, and we'll also have time for you guys to come off mute and us to have a little discussion as well throughout. So what is this event? So there are many styles that we develop, often subconsciously throughout life. And most of these styles are learned when we're really young, so we don't really have that awareness of what's going on. And later in life, these show up in different areas of our life and guide our behavior, some which can be healthy, but a lot of the times it's not necessarily what we really want to display. So the goals from this event and discussion are to understand what these styles are, be aware of when we're using them, work on what we dislike, and to just stop being so hard on ourselves and our relationships. So before we get into it, does anybody already know their attachment style or communication style? And we're just going to put up a little poll so you will have an opportunity to answer that. It'll come up right on your screen. So A, if you know both of them, B, if you only know your communication style, C, if you only know your attachment style, and D, if you know none right now, which is okay. Just give everybody a minute. Wonderful. Lovely. So we have most of the people, not sure yet, but that's what we want to see. We're here to learn, and, we're going to talk right through it. For those of you that know, that's great. And a lot of you know your attachment style, so we'll be working on, getting to both of them. Wonderful. So going into attachment styles. And as you guys mentioned, some of you already know it, so you can add to the chat if you know your attachment style already, and then we can compare if what you thought is right or it's something different. So what attachment styles are and what they refer to are the different ways that we think, feel, and act in relationships. They're developed when we're young by how we perceive and respond to the availability and responsiveness of our caregivers. So whether that's a parent, primary caregiver when we're young, that's what our attachment style is going to be developed from. And later in life, This strongly influences how we are in relationships as adults. So there are four main communication styles that we're going to be talking about today. So starting with a secure attachment. Kind of like what the name implies, securely attached individuals are comfortable with emotional intimacy and independence. They're confident that their needs will be met. They have strong trust and security in relationships, and a good ability to express their concerns and handle conflict. So pretty secure in those relationships. Then we have three types of insecure attachment styles. So if we start with an anxious attachment style, these individuals often worry, can be distrustful, and quite sensitive. They can fear abandonment, rejection, criticism, seek a lot of reassurance and approval, and crave closeness and attention. They also have difficulty managing conflict and negative feelings. Next, moving to avoidant attachment. So these individuals are independent. They avoid intimacy and closeness, appear distant and guarded, and can be quite rigid, uncomfortable, and uncomfortable with emotions and vulnerability. They would also have difficulty expressing needs or concerns, and are uncomfortable with conflict and talking about emotions and stuff. And finally, we have anxious avoidant or disorganized or fearful attachment. So here you would alternate between these, the last two attachment styles, so between these emotional extremes, where you would desire intimacy and fear abandonment, but still be a bit like distrusting and guarded and distant. Here, there would be a lot of contradictory and inconsistent behaviors, difficulty managing healthy boundaries, and these individuals would be prone to high conflict and just some confusion. So overall, people with secure attachment styles believe that their close relationships are trustworthy, whereas someone with an insecure attachment tends to distrust, be distant, or worry about their bond with others. Now, the thing is that we have these styles that we carry through us throughout life and act in these ways, and we don't even know what's causing it most of the time, which can make us angry at ourselves or our partners, or them angry at us, which creates a lot of confusion and guilt. But not to worry, we can work on these attachment styles over time through therapy, personal work, and reassurance from our loved ones. It's also helpful to note that our current or previous partners can also influence our attachment styles as well, which can be a positive or negative influence. So now learning a little more about these, and we will have an open discussion after this as well. But what attachment style do you guys currently now think you have?
So we're gonna pop into another poll here. So again, answering, which attachment style do you resonate most with after learning more about them? It should pop up in just a second. Awesome. So A is secure, B for anxious, C for avoidant, D for disorganized and fearful, and E, I'm not sure. Just give everyone a second to answer there. And again, if you have any questions regarding this portion, throw them into that Q&A tool and we will absolutely loop back to them. All right, let's see what we all thought. All right, so most of us are feeling we're the anxious type, with disorganized and fearful, or sorry, no, with secure being, or no, I was right, D, disorganized and fearful being second, and third being secure. Thanks for sharing, friends.
Yeah, and sometimes we feel like, why are we not secure? Especially when we have, a loving partner, we're in a healthy relationship, and keeping in mind that this is not a reflection of your current relationship, of who you are now. These are kind of just in us, and just working to understand them is something that we're going to be talking about in a bit as well. Wonderful. Coming to communication styles then. And similar, if anybody already knows their communication style, add it to the chat, and then we'll discuss, is it the same or different? So what are communication styles? These are patterns of how we express ourselves, convey things, and interact with others. This includes both verbal and nonverbal cues, so words, and also things like tone and body language. Now, these can stem from a combination of things, including your upbringing, past experiences, cultural influences, communication skills, or just preferred patterns. And we'll be talking about 4 main types today. So starting with passive or avoidant communication. Individuals with this communication style have a hesitancy to express their needs, opinions, or concerns. They would tend to suppress emotions, withdraw from confrontation or difficult conversations, agree with the other person's demands, or just accept what the other person is saying despite having a different opinion, or just shutting down, withdrawing, using humor as a distraction, or to just like distance yourself from the situation. Next, we have passive aggression. So individuals with a passive-aggressive communication style tend to express feelings indirectly. So you're appearing non-confrontational on the surface, but carrying underlying tones of aggression, which can include making sarcastic, snide, indirect comments that carry a hidden negative meaning. So here we're not directly or openly expressing or addressing the issue, but you're trying to express that I'm not happy. So here you could inconvenience others, show the silent treatment, or a dismissive and distant attitude. Next, we have aggression. So an aggressive communication style includes expressing feelings in a confrontational, forceful, or hostile manner, which can include shouting, insulting, threatening, blackmailing and gaslighting, slamming things and breaking things, throwing things, and displaying aggressive body language as well. This would also include abuse, which is never okay, and we really want to cut that out. And individuals with an aggressive communication style would often try to dominate conversations and control those situations. And finally, coming to assertive communication. So oftentimes when we say, assertiveness, we think it's about being firm, that, this is how it is. But really, assertive communication involves expressing your own feelings, needs, and concerns in a direct and confident manner, while still respecting and actively listening to the other person's perspective. So you're trying to promote open communication, problem solving, and mutual understanding. Here, we're actively trying to not blame or attack who you're speaking to also limit defensiveness, and offer alternative solutions or compromises to find mutually beneficial solutions. Now, when it comes to communication styles, they're not fixed traits, and you may even use different styles or a combination depending on the situation, your emotional state, or who you're speaking to. We can work on our communication styles as well, and you can change them according to what is most beneficial for you and your relationships. Assertiveness is the goal, and this really shows respect. It limits attacking who we're talking to, any defensiveness, and really promotes just listening and compromising and working as a team. So we may learn a specific style early in life that works for us or benefits us then, but it can later cause issues in other situations and relationships, especially when it might clash with another person's. So based on that, then, what communication styles do you think you guys are at?
Okay, poll number 3. Just as Manor explained there, the question is, which communication style do you resonate most with after learning more about them? A is passive avoidant. B is passive aggressive. C is aggressive. D is assertive. And E, maybe you're not sure. That's okay. Give everyone a quick second here to get their answer in. And great questions coming through, everyone. Thank you so much. Again, keep adding them to that Q&A box, or if you need support adding it in there, you can pop it into the chat box and Lucy will swap it over for you. Right or no question is a stupid question. It might not even be specifically related to this content, but maybe a side note for you. We're happy to hear and answer those questions as well.
For sure.
Okay, let's see what we got. So most of us are passive avoidant. And then in second place, it looks like assertive. Nice.
That's great to hear. And, definitely we want to note that when it comes to, passive and avoidant, we want to make sure that we're working on our own kind of confidence and ability to express ourselves. But also we want to make sure that we have that comfortable, open environment, whether it's in our relationships or friendships. So really it will take that teamwork, but it starts with each of us individually. Wonderful. Perfect. So how is this understanding going to help you? So by discovering these styles, we can understand why we think, feel, behave, and act and speak in certain ways. The thing is, we're often so hard on ourselves about, why did I say a certain thing? Or, why did I feel that in this situation? And, we start feeling really critical and guilty about ourselves. So understanding that, this is coming from these past styles, these internal kind of styles, it can allow us to feel a little less guilty and a little less hard on ourselves. It can create empathy and understanding. Because let's be real, we've all been through some shit in life. So it's important we take those past experiences into consideration as well. They shape us to be who we are today. But of course, it doesn't mean our journey stops there. We continue learning and growing. And that's exactly what this understanding will do, that, it'll help us see what we need to work on in order to create that change and be the best versions of ourselves that we want to be. And also in relationships, this awareness can provide empathy and understanding of each other's perspective. It can help your partner see when you may not mean to, do a certain thing or respond in a certain way, and why you do it if you do it, which can help them feel less attacked and be less defensive as well. So, oftentimes in relationships, there can be a clash. If one of us is aggressive, if one is passive, that's, an alternating clash. So one person might feel like they don't have as much of a voice. And, sometimes when we also act in certain ways, for example, if we have an anxious attachment style and, we are feeling insecure or jealous or needing that reassurance, sometimes our partner can think that, it's because of them or vice versa. So this can just help us reduce those misunderstandings and not take things as personally. It can, just help that person understand us and help ourselves understand us as well, which is really, really important just throughout life and in so many things. So while we can work on these styles, it's important to note that it does take time. Right? We spend decades building up these patterns. So to break them down and rebuild new ones will take time naturally, but it can be done. We just need to be patient and understanding with ourselves and others. So this awareness will really allow you to approach yourself and others with kindness and understanding. And I just want to end it with a quote from the Dalai Lama before we get into our conversation, that only the development of compassion and understanding for others and ourselves can bring us the tranquility and happiness that we all seek. And that's exactly what these styles can help you do. Just understand yourself and others to just feel more calm and happy, and just, stop being so hard on ourselves. So I'm going to open up the room for anyone to come off mute, bring up any questions, or pop them into the chat so we can all have a little discussion about all of this.
And then before we do dive into questions, I would just love if everyone can come off mute for 1 second. And I would just love to give Manur a big round of applause for that super informative conversation. That was wonderful.
Thank you all for attending.
So let's dive in. If you could guide us. Okay, let's all go back on mute so we can hear the questions now. And then we'll pop off after. I promise we have tons of time for conversation and connection, which is wonderful. So Lucy, why don't you guide us to the Q&A box and start us off with the questions that got put in there during the content, and then we'll open up the floor. I see some hands up. We're going to get to all of you. So hang tight.
Sure thing. So I'm hoping that this pops up on the screen for everybody. Mm-hmm. The first question is how to set healthy boundaries with in-laws.
I think that's a great question. I think we also might have lost Manur briefly. Oh, she's back. Okay. She's there. Manur, let us know if you need support with your connection there. She's probably just getting herself sorted. While she's getting sorted. Adina, this is a great question. I personally find setting boundaries really difficult, especially when it's the ones we love. Or are trying to love the most because they're the closest to us in our circle. Manur, we're back in action. Can we see Adina's question?
Oh, looks like we're having technical issues.
In the past minute or so. Can you guys hear and see me all right?
Yes. Are we back?
Yes.
Beautiful.
Sorry, I'm not sure what happened there.
That's okay. Such is life.
No.
Okay. Manur, Adina's question. How to set healthy boundaries with in-laws?
For sure. So it is, when it comes to communication styles, what we want to consider is also, what their communication style is when we're trying, and, if we're trying to be assertive and it's being met with aggression, passive aggression, or even just avoidance, we want to understand that and see how we can, work on our communication to take that into consideration. So what we want to start with is limiting any attacking and defensiveness. Any, as human beings, if we do feel attacked, we're going to go into that fight or flight mode. We're going to become defensive. No one's really going to be hearing to your points necessarily. So what we want to do is start by describing the situation, expressing, what's going on, get everyone on the same page, and then start by expressing your feelings. And what we can do is use I statements to do this. So saying that, I feel a certain way, or I feel hurt because of this. I find it difficult to manage things because X, Y, and Z. Express your feelings. And then saying, what about you? How do you feel? What do you think of the situation? This promotes an open communication, open dialogue. It's a conversation rather than just kind of stating this is how it is, because that's going to receive some backlash. Of course, it does, depend on the situation, but this is a good guideline we can use in most of our conversations to, help us be a little more assertive. And also trying to manage our own emotions. Of course, it's natural for our own emotions to get heightened when we're not hearing what we really want to. So trying to, focus on our breathing, trying techniques to calm ourselves before and during that conversation.
That's great.
Thank you. All right, next up. Thank you, Adina, for that question.
Yeah, it was a great question.
Next up, we have a question from Matthew, which should be on your screen now. Are attachment and communication styles more fluid and reactive? And in brackets, change depending on the relationship in question, or are they more static in nature?
Lovely question. So with attachment styles, they tend to be a bit more fixed. So we tend to carry an attachment style with us through our childhood. Of course, it can be, influenced by our other relationships, but we tend to gravitate towards a specific one. Whereas with communication styles, they can definitely be more fluid, depending on the relationship, depending on our feelings, depending on, the conversation. With some people, we tend to be more aggressive. With some people, we tend to be more considerate. So that, for each of them, it would be different. Great question.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah.
Next up, we have a question from Connie. As attachment style is influenced by past experiences, how do we become the secured attachment style? Is there anything we could do to foster it?
For sure. Another great question. So yes, we do want to get to that secure attachment style. And, it does start with a lot of personal work. So whether that's individually or through therapy is a great way, to work on this, but starting to explore that past, discussing and kind of seeing where that attachment style comes from, why that is, and questioning ourselves, when we feel a certain way, when we have certain thoughts about our current relationships, if we're feeling insecure, questioning where that's coming from, is it this current relationship or is it past patterns? And definitely a therapist, a friend, a family member, having these conversations with them can also help you identify that. And a big part of it is also your relationship. So is your partner or your family member, your friend, someone that's going to support you in this? Are they going to provide you that reassurance when you need? In relationships, especially when we have those different attachment styles that can clash, we want to see that, are we being understanding of that? Can we be forgiving and patient as we work on them? And it's a lot of like trial and error, trying to figure it out as we go. But it is about those small steps, right? So just questioning and fostering that like personal kind of growth.
No, that sounds great. I've had someone actually private message me with an anonymous question, which I would like to share with the group. It's, how do I set boundaries as an anxious attachment style with people who I'm scared to lose?
What a great question.
For sure. And, oftentimes we think boundaries are things that are going to, create distance in relationships, that are going to keep us away from people. But boundaries are a way to really best help that relationship. So for example, if you feel that with a certain person, the more you hang out with them, the more you are around them, the more you're going to fight, which is going to impact your relationship. A boundary of, setting how often you're meeting or how often you're talking is really going to promote that continuing of that relationship, because you're making sure that, when we are chatting, it's good, we're happy, there's, not as much kind of conflict going on. So really seeing that, what boundary do I want to set to best prolong this relationship, to help this relationship? And, while it is kind of harder to express yourself and your feelings when you do have like a passive kind of communication style, or just having that anxious attachment style, it can be scary to, bring up these things. Whether you're expressing calmly, why that's important, or whether you're just doing it for yourself, that, for you, if you know that this is something that's harmful for you, just talking to yourself, a lot of the time that self-talk is so important, and it can be a great way to practice how you would communicate with others as well.
That's great, thank you. We have another question here. It has 6 thumbs up, so I assume it's quite a popular one. I'm just going to pop it up on the screen. It's from PHX, and it says, what if you are a combination of these styles, depending on who you are dealing with?
Yeah. So I'm going to assume it's about the communication styles. And definitely, we can be a combination. So what we want to do is see, what is that combination? Is it, sometimes what happens is if we're avoidant, for example, in communication, we, don't express, we build all of these feelings up. And then when it's time and, all our frustration is like, we've had it till here, we then tend to like explode and take it out in aggressive ways. So definitely can be these, this combination depending with, on those people and situations. But what we want to make sure is that we are limiting at least aggression, especially if there is any kind of abuse. And if, we are just keeping things in, it's building up, it's impacting us, we're going to feel heavy, there's going to be resentment, negativity in those relationships. So really kind of seeing that, why am I engaging in all these communication styles? What's leading me to be more passive or more aggressive? And starting to limit those factors. So while we're like working on reducing those factors that lead us to that kind of communication, we can also at the same time be building up on our skills for assertive communication. And, even that is something that you can build up through therapy, through your personal kind of work and exploration, through your personal relationships and trying to work with someone on becoming more assertive. And again, it does take time, right?
That's great. Thank you. Okay, next up, we have a question from Emily. And it should pop up on your screen now. What if you are being assertive, trying to genuinely understand the other person and actively listen, yet the other person's view or desired outcome is unacceptable? For example, an employer is not taking workplace safety concerns seriously.
Yeah, that's great. And, that's a tough situation when we're really trying and, that either the outcome is just unacceptable to us, or that other person is not trying to be as assertive as well, right? So the big thing we want to consider in assertive communication is that part of compromise, of working to find a mutually beneficial solution. It's in relationships and most situations, it's never going to be that, it's completely my way or completely your way. And so really trying to see, okay, what is an acceptable compromise? Or in this situation, what is that boundary I can set? If, workplace safety is not being taken seriously and it is something important to you, setting that boundary that, expressing that, I'm willing to compromise, I'm willing to, look past certain things, but until, a certain amount, like a baseline of things are done, I don't feel comfortable coming into work, or, that's just something that I'm not okay with. So, while again, you're working on listening, on trying to compromise, of course, you're going to have your limits as well. So a big part of that is just expressing what, you're absolutely not okay with.
That's great. Thank you. Okay, see a couple more questions here. I think maybe we'll do let's say 2 or 3 more. We've got one from Laura. I will pop it up on the screen. Laura has asked, how can I work on defining what I need from a relationship, or what boundaries are needed in the first place, in order to improve communicating that to a partner, and in brackets, being less avoidant?
It's a great question, Laura.
For sure. So really, asking yourself that, what are you seeking from that relationship? What makes you feel good? What makes you feel not so good? What's a pattern that's being done repeatedly, whether it's through you or your partner, that you really want to limit? And that part takes a lot of exploration. So, again, whether it's therapy, kind of just introspection, journaling, things like that, to really ask yourself and kind of make note that, for example, if one week something positive was going on that made you really happy in your relationship, making note of that. Or if there's something kind of negative going on, making note of that as well. So over time, you can see, what you need, what you definitely don't want, and kind of start expressing those things to your partner. And in avoidance, what happens is because you feel uncomfortable with that communication, right? A good kind of trick that you can do is set check-in times. So whether that's weekly, monthly, daily, having these check-in times for your relationship is a good way of you and your partner being mentally prepared for that conversation. So you know that, okay, this is not us, coming at each other, attacking each other randomly. It's a planned time that we are going to be ready for. We know that it's there for our communication, for our expression. And you have time to really, plan what you're going to say in that, especially with avoidance at the start. That can be really helpful until you eventually get to that place where, that assertiveness becomes your pattern and you can do it more freely.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, last question. But before that, I know there are some quick questions just about, will people get a copy of the slides? Are there any information or resources which will be sent out in an email as a follow-up to everybody? So there will be a few quizzes, some resources, the slides. You'll also have access to the transcription, and we'll send you the full recording as well. But here is the last question. It's from Satadru. I hope I said that correctly. My question is how I can ensure boundaries with parents about my whereabouts and things and tasks that my parents always ask to know.
For sure. So if this is a kind of situation where your parents are constantly asking and you don't feel comfortable with that, with that kind of constant checkup, expressing why that it's frustrating or difficult for you, letting them calmly know, but also being open to why they're doing that. Is it coming from a place of concern and worry from them? And what about it is frustrating and difficult for you? So that open dialogue, both of you getting that equal chance to express yourselves, and again coming to maybe it's a compromise where you just state that, okay, today I'm doing this, I'm going here, won't be able to message as much, for example. So they have that understanding that, okay, you're safe, all of that, but it's not like a constant kind of checkup, right? So really working on how we can compromise, and we want to make sure, in compromise, it can be either, if something is more important to one person, letting them have it there, and in other situations where it's going to be more important to you, vice versa. Or really, kind of seeing a number line, what you want, what the other person wants, and slowly, working away at that to get to like this middle area where you're both okay with the solution.
Perfect. Thank you, Manor. I'm just going to add your link into the chat box now. For those who want to connect directly with you, they can do so by clicking on your profile and potentially booking a meet and greet with you and going through some of those extra questions that they might have. But thank you, everyone, for your questions. That was really great.
It was a great discussion, and definitely we can continue working on this stuff through sessions or anything. I provide individual and couples therapy, so whether you want to come explore, your own styles and work on them yourselves, or manage that like clash in your relationship, I'm available.
Beautiful.